Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw number 256, another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. So as ever, let's crack on. First one is manipulating Polymarket. If you don't know what Polymarket is, it's a website where you can bet on weird things, community betting, etc. Now, somebody bet in the middle of April that the temperature at Charles de Gaulle Airport would be 22 degrees, and they were correct. They won £25,000. Although that wasn't actually the truth. So it was actually 18 degrees. And you can see from the graph above, anybody who was betting on 18 degrees, which was everybody, because that was what the temperature was going to be, is a yellow line. And then all of a sudden, the line goes into the blue. And that's somebody betting on 22 degrees. One person, in fact. And they won £25,000. Now the police are involved trying to figure this out. What they think happened is somebody broke into the temperature sensor at Charles de Gaulle Airport and used a hairdryer to artificially raise the temperature, therefore cashing in on their bet. Now Polymarket have just said, oh, okay, well, that's bad. We'll not use this sensor again, but apparently he keeps his money. But the police are involved because obviously it's illegal if you are tampering with weather sensors and changing government data. There you go. Interesting. We're seeing more of these manipulations all the time. Somebody has reversed engineered SynthID. So SynthID is the secret watermark that Google specifically put into their images and videos. And it looks, apparently, as you can see on the right hand side. How do we know this? Well, Losh Denny has figured out a really simple way to reverse engineer it by generating a lot of white and a lot of black images, just pure white, pure black. Very easy to then try and figure out with a bit of contrast and manipulation of the image what those pixels are. And it's figured out it looks a bit like that. So if you delete that from the image, you can then not specifically delete SynthID, but you can then confuse the AI so much that it actually thinks it's a human generated image. So obviously we might need to go back to the drawing board a little bit, or at least tweak it if it's easy-ish to do. It's a little bit more complicated than I'm actually making it out. But well done to Alosh for that. That's quite interesting. And also that's what a watermark looks like. This is iLamp. If you didn't know these existed, you do now. Nigeria has just signed a deal for 50,000 of these, and they're going to be distributed AI data centers. Now that might sound weird because it's just a lamp, but look at all the stuff this lamp can do. It can do drone charging and it'll be a landing spot, so a drone can land on the top and charge. It can do Wi-Fi and cellular. It can have cameras in it. Of course it can. Weather station, air quality. It's actually a lamp, so it can actually do lighting. It can do gunshot detection. So it can do triangulation of gunshots using different pillars. It can do power generation as well, because that thing up the middle is a solar panel as well. So the Nigeria deal, they want to make them pay for themselves. So so it actually is a decent money spinner as well. So they've ordered these. Apparently they've got NVIDIA chips in them. So they're a little bit worried about people nicking them and using those. So they've said, we don't know how this is going to happen, but they said if anybody tampers with them, they will fry the electronics, which sounds very exciting, very dangerous. But there you go. iLamp, everybody. This is Ben Jordan, big fan of Ben Jordan's. This is his latest crusade, just to bring everybody's attention towards things like Ring cameras, remote cameras. So he's got two apps. One he's releasing, Cochlea, he's not releasing. But monitoring is the first one. So what that does is it just says that when your camera detects something, it then sends a burst of activity to the servers, obviously via your router. Now you can just sniff that out of the air. That burst of activity is available. So that's what he's doing with monitoring. And then the Cochlea essentially can detect what the patterns of those are. So if somebody's walking around their home, activating the cameras, you can then detect that, and it can then trigger each one of those in sequence. And when they then look at their web cameras through their mobile phone app, you can detect that as well. So if you're a burglar, for instance, you can then know when somebody's walking around their house and when they're looking at their camera. When they're not looking at their camera is probably when you break in. So all of this is available without breaking into any Wi-Fi or anything like that. So that's why Ben's doing it, because it's all a bit dodgy. Sonic fire extinguishers. Now these have been known about for a while. You may have seen some demos in the past, but this system is fitted to the outside of houses, obviously somewhere where there's a lot of wildfires, California, etc. And what it does is it uses ultrasonic waves to extinguish the fire. So ultrasonic waves, essentially it's a speaker, but what it does is it looks like it's blasting air, but obviously if it was blasting air, then it would be introducing more oxygen, which would be bad for a fire or good for the fire. So what it does, it actually vibrates the air, it oscillates the air across the fire. So obviously the fire has already expended the oxygen in the air, and therefore if you then just keep moving that deoxygenated air over the fire, then it's going to put it out. So this looks like it's actually a blower, but what it's actually doing is it's oscillating the deoxygenated air and putting it out. So there you go. So this is obviously going to start helping people in wildfire areas protect their homes and properties. There you go. Perovskites, I'm a big fan of perovskites. Not many people know what they are, but these are metal halide perovskites. They're a type of crystal. You can make them into solar panels, and you can also make them into LEDs. Now, they are super efficient solar panels, and they're also super efficient LEDs. Everybody's very excited about them. They're very fragile at the moment, so they haven't quite figured out how to put them into production yet, into any sort of sense, but somebody's now figured out how you can make them be both a solar panel and an LED at the same time. So solar panels have to be quite thick, or the layers have to be quite thick, whereas LEDs have to be quite thin, so they can't really coexist in the same material. So what they've figured out is if you then change the diffusion of essentially the lens on top of it, it can then manipulate the photons and make sure that they can either escape or they can come in just using the lens on top. Now, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but this is very exciting in as much as you might be able to have screens that are solar panels that also power themselves and are LED panels as well. So that is actually quite exciting. If you work in the out of home world, I've been banging on about these for a while. So there you go. That's quite exciting. And finally, we have Chronolog. This is a very simple thing. I really love this one. It's a sort of crowdsourcing environmental thing. So you register for one of these doodads, you 3D print it, and it gives you a unique code. Now that unique code is then used to create a time lapse. So anybody can then rock up to one of these things. They put their camera into it. It then centers their camera on the view. They take a photo and they upload it to the central Chronolog website with the code. It therefore adds it to the end of the time lapse. So you get these beautiful time lapses in the environment. Now clearly it's using everybody's phone, so you're going to get different kind of lenses and whatnot, but you get the idea. You can see stuff moving, which tends to then chronolog, or at least it will then crowdsource how it's changing over time, which I think is really cool. I really like that. Super lo-fi, and I applaud that. Well done. Hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully it was useful. If you're not subscribed, you know what to do, and I will see you again next week.